Hi everybody. Today I thought I'd do something completely different. I thought instead of just talking about this or that, particularly talking about my bags, which you're probably very tired of, don't say yes. I thought instead I'd tell you a story. This is a true life story. It is something that actually happened to me. It is also a ghost story. So settle in. I'm going to tell you a spooky ghost story from my own personal life. Here we go. Busby, take a seat. Thank you. When I was 21, I moved across country from Texas to Georgia in America to take my first job as a reporter. And I was working in a town called Savannah, Georgia, on the east coast of America. This is a very old town. I mean, very old, one of America's oldest cities. And it's filled with these beautiful, grand, but at the time crumbling, many of them, Victorian and pre-Victorian houses. Like, they all survived, or most of them survived. So there's just street after street after street of these beautiful old houses. It's quite a spooky town and a delightful town. And it's famously haunted, like famously. The locals all have stories. And there's good reason for that. I mean, there's a lot happened in that town over many years. War, slavery, mass plagues. So it is a town that has lived through a great deal. So I, at the time, did not believe in ghosts, however, at all. Not even slightly. I thought it was rubbish. So imagine my surprise when I found myself right in the middle of a ghost story. And here's how it began. So I lived in a small house. I rented. It's the first place I ever lived on my own, I believe. The story of the house is also interesting. It was a Victorian cottage, but it was two cottages. It was what they call it in America, a duplex. So it was two cottages connected. It had two front doors. Each was a separate, identical, little tiny house with two tiny bedrooms, a teeny tiny living room, and a teeny tiny kitchen. Like, that was the whole of the cottage. I loved it. The owner of it had actually purchased it someplace else, had it, and this is so American, driven to his house and put at the foot of his enormous garden, right on the train tracks. So the train tracks were like right outside my door. And if I was talking on the phone and a train went by, I had to stop until the train completely passed because I couldn't hear a thing and nobody could hear a thing. It was deafening. It was amazing. My mother would just be like, where do you live? Like, do you now work for the train company? I'm just like, kind of. Like, I could wave. I could sit on my porch and wave at the guy driving the train. Like, and he would wave back. We had, Georgia. So I love this little house. I had no furniture, none. I had suitcases. I believe the first thing I did was buy a mattress at Goodwill, so at the charity shop, because back in those days you could. Now you can't because of, that's disgusting. But in those days you just could for nothing, like $10. God knows how old that mattress was. But it was a mattress, which was better than the floor. And for ages, that was my only furniture. And then eventually, because I was very broke, I was making no money at this newspaper. And I was working so many hours. I worked all night as a crime reporter. And by the time I got home, I would just sleep for a few hours. So it didn't really matter that there was nothing in my house, because then I would just go out again. But the emptiness of the house, eventually I got like a chair and maybe a little table to go with the chair, but I didn't have anything else. The house was mostly empty. My house was completely renovated and adorable. Next door was the older half of the house. An old man lived there who had moved with the house. So he had lived in it where it was before. And when the guy, my landlord, bought it, he moved with it and all of his belongings, and now he lived in the house in his new location. And I never saw him because he was very ill from the moment I moved in. I just knew he was very elderly and that he wasn't well, and his children and grandchildren were often there to take care of him. I would see them periodically, but again, I was never there. So I didn't know very much about it. I was just working so much, and I was 22 and I wasn't working. I was hanging out with my friends. I was never there. And then the old man died. And this I only knew, like, my landlord took me aside to tell me when he caught me one day, because I, again, never there. And I was like horrified because I don't know, I hadn't thought that that was possible. The man I didn't see was now dead. I asked the landlord, not even really wanting to know the answer, but I said, did he die in the house? And he very much did not want to tell me. My landlord's name is Horace, and I still think Horace is just the best name for anybody's landlord, and that all landlords should be called Horace. And he didn't want to tell me the answer was yes. He was like, well, it was very peaceful. So the answer was yes, he died in my house, or like in the other house connected to my house. So I was like, there's something disconcerting about this. But look, I was a crime reporter. I was dealing with death every day. This was my job. So, and a grown-up, 22, very grown-up by now. I didn't want to be freaked out about this, so I wasn't. I decided to just let it go. A couple of weeks after he died, the man's family, his daughter caught me as I was walking out one day and said, "Would you like some of Dad's furniture?" She said, "We're just getting rid of it all. We're going to clear out the house. I'm sure he'd love for you to have it. He always liked you." We met like once. I think that's so strange. And I said, okay, that's lovely, because I don't have any furniture, and clearly Horace had told them I didn't have any furniture. So they offered me a bed, a metal framed 1930s bed. Like it was properly old, but just the frame of it, so I could put my crappy mattress on it and have an actual bed off the floor, which was just like amazing. And a dresser, I think, like to put my clothes in, and I can't remember, I think that was it, maybe a little table. And they were really, really sweet. I was very grateful, although a little weirded out that he was dead and I was having his things. But, you know, otherwise they were going to go to a charity shop. And again, I remind you, I'm never home anyway, but I was just excited to not be sleeping on the floor. This was huge progress. I think it was probably a few days after that the thing started to happen. To set the scene, I lived in a little house alone. To get from the downstairs to the little bedrooms upstairs, there was a really short wooden staircase. Like, this house was teeny tiny. So wooden stairs up. So if you walked up the stairs, it was bang, 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 bang to the top. It wasn't carpeted. At the top of the stairs was this huge air conditioning unit, which was like Alaskan. So you walked into this wave of cold air. I loved it. And that cooled the upstairs. And the downstairs, it was the only air conditioning I had. And then my bedroom was right there. And then the second bedroom, empty at the front, that I never went into. It was dusty. Why would I go in? One night I was asleep in bed and someone ran up the stairs. It was very clear. When anybody went up the stairs, it was very obvious. Footsteps on that wooden stairs. Boom, 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 boom. I went from sound asleep to wide awake and ready to fight in 2 seconds. Like, I was just up. Like, who's in my house? It's, again, so tiny. But there was, like, the lights were off in the corridor. Nobody was moving in the hallway. All I could hear was the giant air conditioner. So I walked to the door and looked out. Nothing. Turned on the lights. Did the whole thing you do in movies, shouting, "Who's there? Who's there?" Nothing. Walked downstairs, nobody. Spare bedroom, empty bedroom, nothing. Obviously my imagination. Went back to sleep, went to bed, stayed up for about an hour and a half thinking about burglars and intruders and like how that noise could possibly happen. Next morning everything was fine. Nothing happened again that night. The next night, 2 o'clock in the morning, bang, 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 someone ran up the stairs. This time, again, I'm awake instantly, like violence, fighting. Again, nobody there. Again, empty corridor, empty little landing, little staircase, nobody. And I just started thinking maybe I'm just paranoid because somebody died next door. And now all of a sudden, and I've got his bed, it's freaking me out. So I just need to calm down. Closed the door so I could sleep. My cat was on the bed with me. Bang, 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 bang. Someone ran down the stairs. And like, it's so clear. There's nothing else that sounds like that. It wasn't a sound outside. It was somebody going up and down the stairs, running fast. Somebody quite athletic. Somebody who could do it faster than I could do it. Because I walk up the stairs. Walk, 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 walk. This person was running up the stairs. 2 steps at a time. Bang, 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 bang to the top. Like, and there was nobody living next door now. They'd cleared it out, boarded it up. And so the next day I went to Horace, my landlord, and said, is anybody in there? Like, are there rats next door? Is it safe? Is it clean? Because I hear things at night that, you know, that I didn't used to hear. And he says, completely empty. He was gonna redo it the way mine was. So he was gonna clear it all out, paint it, plaster it. And so nobody was gonna live there for months, he said. He was gonna do it himself. It was completely empty and so there were no vermin. It was completely, and besides rats on the stairs. Don't go bang, bang, bang. So I think he thought I was just being me because I was always going to him with very strange things. I let it go. There was a couple of nights of quiet. And then late one night, bang, 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 louder. And then bang, 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 down again. And then up, bang, 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 bang. My cat was asleep on my bed. And I know it wasn't in my head because my cat was staring at the door of my bedroom. His eyes, you know how when cats are startled or alert, the blacks of their eyes spread and the color disappears entirely and it's just all black. His eyes were completely black. and he was staring out the door, and he would look at me, and I said, "You heard that too?" Crap. So I closed the door. I'm like, I don't want to hear it. And I could hear things shuffling in the corridor, walking up and down the stairs. I finally got up and I called a friend of mine and I said, "I can't sleep, the ghost is keeping me up. And can I come to your house and sleep on your sofa?" And she was like, "You are so weird." But I did sleep the next couple of nights at her house because I was exhausted. I started coming home later and later, going to hang out with friends after work who also work nights, or going out drinking with my friends, just so that by the time I got home it was late enough that maybe I missed the show. And then one night, it was a normal night, like a Sunday night, so I wasn't working. I went to sleep at a normal time, amazingly, and at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, bang, bang, bang up the stairs, walk on the staircase. And then in the spare room, this was new, the sound of the sash window going up, the thump of the window going up. Now here's the thing about those pesky windows. I could never open or close them. They were really stiff, very old windows. I got out of bed, irritated. I walked into the spare room. The windows were wide open. They'd been closed. The only time I'd ever opened them was the day I moved in to put some stuff in there and air it out and then close them again. They were wide open. They locked. They had a clicky lock on them. And I just thought, God's sake, what's going on? By now I was with my cat, was following me everywhere. He wasn't that kind of a cat, and he's huge, dark eyes. He was trying to tell me, like, tugging at my ankle, like, "There's a ghost in this house." And I'm like, I know, I just don't know what to do about it. So I went back to bed. He didn't come into the bedroom. And I heard crashes through the house that night. When I got up again, no sleep, thank you, I just saw the cat dashing by, chasing a bird at 4 a.m, a bird in the house. And I just thought, I can't live like this. I can't. And so I went to my landlord and I said, "I have to move. I love your house. It's a lovely house, but it's too haunted and I can't sleep. And I need to go live someplace that's not haunted so I can get some rest." And so I packed my stuff up. Obviously he thought I was mad, completely bonkers. But because he didn't believe in ghosts either, we had a long conversation about it. And I'm like, well, that man never left that house. And not only that, he came with his belongings. And not only that, he did not come as an old man. He came as a teenager or a 20-year-old who's delighted to have his legs again and to fly up and down those stairs and to run all around this cottage and to have that. And I am in some ways glad for him. And in another way, I'm moving and I'm never coming back. And so I packed my belongings. I found someplace else to live. I moved in with the friend whose sofa I used to sleep on. I kept the bed. And it didn't, like, on a risk. I knew that was a chance, but I really liked not sleeping on the floor. So I took that with me. I left the dresser, I left everything else. Nothing ever happened again. Not in the next house, or the house after that. I think he stayed in that house. I think he lived most of his life in that house. And he didn't want to go when he died. But I think his spirit, when it stayed in that building, was a younger him and a more, like, a powerful him, and that he was delighted. And in some ways, it's like the most heartwarming ghost story. But I always remember it as when I started, that's when I believed. Until then, I did not believe. But when that happened, I believed completely. And I make it sound quite light, I think, in this story. But I can tell you it was really frightening. Not because I was afraid of ghosts, because I didn't believe, but because each time I thought my house was being broken into and I was going to be murdered in my bed. And so it was that, I think, that scared me. There would be other ghosts that scared, because I don't think I was afraid of him. I think he was delightful, probably a delightful ghost. But there would be other ghosts later in my life, or at least one, that was not delightful. And that story is for another time. Thank you for being here for my ghost story. I hope you liked it. Something new and different. I'll try to think of more stories to tell you in the future, because I think this was fun and I do love telling a story. If you've ever experienced a ghost story, if you've had a spirit of your own that harassed you or kept you up late at night or scared you or bothered you or became your friend, tell me below. Let's talk about it. And thank you so much for being here. Stay safe. Keep breathing. See you soon.